Are we ready? Now we're. I don't know that. We're trying to. We don't want to start recording until we've got everybody quiet. Please turn off your cell phones. All righty, and here's our host for today, Manuel Camacho.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, everybody.
Make sure I'm recording. It's not.
We're having technical problems, but they'll be solved right away with a click.
We should stop recording.
We have a great lineup.
Okay.
Cool.
Yay!
Yay! Well, again, welcome everybody. Thanks so much for being here at the Poetry Center. We have a great lineup today. You're gonna be, oof, you're gonna be mind. We're gonna get started, everybody. We're gonna start with our own Susan, excuse me. Susan, come on up here. Susan is a board member of the Sacramento Storytellers Guild. Please come and tell us your story. We cannot wait to hear your story. Susan, please come up here.
Say my name is Suzanne, like shoes on, but if I'm barefoot, you will not remember my name. So fortunately, I'm wearing shoes today. I also say my last name is Liqueur, like after 5 liquor. So it's basically shoes on liquor. And again, it's a great time when you go to the bar with me. In fact, if you get a chance to look at my purse today, you can see that it is the shape of a guitar. Take it to a blues club on a Sunday night, their 25th anniversary. I did not buy a drink. In fact, I had so many drinks on my table, I had to start giving them to other people. So it's a great tool. I highly recommend it. But I actually have a story to tell you, probably about my hamburger mogul, my entrepreneurial spirit. In 2006, the National Association of Women Business Owners gave me an award for entrepreneurial spirit. But where did that start? Oh, probably about 5 years old. I want to be an artist. Oh, you can't be an artist, my mom said, because artists starve. And you like to eat. Well, I was a skinny thing, like super skinny, anorexic looking. But I remember I'm an artist, like I'm a girl. So I started eating double. And then I found out I had $1. I could go buy 100 pieces of penny candy. I could sell them for a nickel. In the rich neighborhoods, a quarter. And the race was on. I mean, I sold candies, beef jerky, etc. But when I was 16, well, growing up, my brother liked to beat me up, and he was really good at it. I came from the zoo. I was 13 months old, but when I was 3, I had imaginary playmates. So my parents said there's something wrong with her. And they didn't take me to find out that that's normal for creative kids. They just went and got to the zoo and got another kid. And so here I am. But my brother was born angry. Like he was so mad and angry all the time. He would get blood red. He would pass out literally from being angry, even as a baby. He came with a bottle of medicine, I don't know what the directions were. I couldn't read. But it said basically when he's angry to give him a pill. My mom threw him away. He doesn't need that. He needs love. So I've had knives thrown at me, rocks and boulders thrown at me, guns shot at me. I've got linoleum knife marks in the kitchen to prove it. But when I was 16, feeding 26 dogs a day, my mom worked at the cafeteria at Yuba College, and her job was the baker joke because she burned everything. And by the way, baking was not her area of expertise. Neither was cooking, but she would scrape all of the food off of the plates into a 5-gallon bucket. She would send them home with me. To me, I had my job, my chore at 16 was to feed not 1, not 10, not 20, but 26 dogs a day. from puppies to the big ones. We had Doberman Pinschers, everything in between, German Shepherds and mutts. And the mutts were all the neighbors' dogs that commingled with our dogs that were not spayed or neutered. In case, my brother decided he was mad at me one day. He choked me with the telephone cord. Hard. I passed out. But when I woke up, I'm like, enough. I've had enough. I think I'm getting out of here. So I moved to my aunt's house for a few weeks, got a job at McDonald's. I remember the interview. It would be an honor to work for McDonald's. Because until I was 15 and I had my first burger at McDonald's, I thought hamburgers were burnt and crunchy. True, I did. But in any case, I was so excited that I got a job at McDonald's, $3.35 an hour. Woohoo! And I had a 1972 yellow, orange, gold Chevy Vega, and not just any kind of Chevy Vega. It was one that my parents paid $3,000 for, which is an exorbitant amount of money then, and said, "Don't worry, pay us back." So every week I had to give them $25 towards my car payment. You know, I think it was 1998 before I paid it off, but I did pay it off. And so here's the McDonald's thing. My job was to work drive-through register. Hi, welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order? Do you guys know the song 2L beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun? Well, if you don't know it, that was a song way back in the day that was on radio, TV, everywhere. And I had to actually make those Big Macs. But then the best part was when someone ordered it and I said, "Would you like an apple pie with that?" Suggestive selling. I was the employee of the month again, because yes, they would take a pie, sometimes a large fry. So I was so excited. But then they thought, you know, I was kind of getting a little uppity. They're going to give me a job that's a little bit more of a task. So they had this big chute. The hamburgers came down and sat there. And I don't know if you remember this, but they had like a number 15, because they would put them down at noon. And at 12:15, we had to throw any burgers ahead of that away. But my job was to take those burgers and count 3 Big Macs, 2 filet of fish, 1 cheeseburger, and throw them away. Well, after I did that like twice, I said, that's a waste of food. I grew up, my parents were from the Depression. This is crazy. So I had an idea. I'm going to take these burgers home and sell them the next day. And I did. And they were in styrofoam containers. A Big Mac was blue, styrofoam container, and it grew to like a Big Mac in my little microwave. So I would take them back to my migrant farmer shack where I paid $135 a month. And I would put them in my refrigerator, take them out about 6 a.m. and microwave them until I had the stench of my overwhelming fillet of fish mixed with Big Macs. And by the way, they only put half a slice of cheese on a fillet of fish. What's that? Anyway, I go back to the farm, and I would go out into the fields, and I had on the back of my Vega, I had hand painted $1 food, and they would line up. I would sell 35, sometimes 50 burgers a day, and $3.35 an hour doesn't really pay that much, but I was making the money. I also had Shasta Cola for a quarter. At the time, they cost about 5 cents, and there were 50 cents if they were cold. So I could sell a warm burger and an ice cold drink for $1.50, and sometimes they'd tip me. So that, you know, this is all non-taxable, of course. And I was just so excited to be able to do this. I went back to McDonald's, and they said, "You know what? You're kind of getting uppity again. This weight sheet's gone to your head." And I still was working drive-through register, but every 15 minutes I had to go mark the sheet. "We're going to give you the garbage task. At night, when the lights go down, the sun is set, the stars are twinkling sometimes. And in Marysville, California, at 4th and E, they were vagrants that gathered around the garbage can. And my job was to lift up the tote. They didn't lock them then, and lift a hefty big bag and throw it literally in the garbage. And they would come, even with me right there, and just start climbing in and ripping them apart, and garbage would be all over the place. And I thought about it. This is just counterintuitive. I happen to work drive-through register. So I went out after maybe a couple of weeks of this, and I made a deal with them. Now, whether you call them bums, hobos, these guys are smart because they were eating for free, because I was nobody's fool, but neither was they. I took their order through drive-through register. 7 of them had to collectively get up there to put the sensor on so they could, was enough weight to turn the microphone on. They would clean the garbage up. I would put the bags right outside the door. They would make sure nothing was on the ground, that the tote with all the garbage was in the tote, and I would take their order. Now, my favorite person was Fred, because Fred would order, I want a Big Mac, fries, and a strawberry shake. I'm like, you know, we already took the shake machine apart 15 minutes ago. What else do you want? I'll take a Sprite. Okay. So then he would disguise his voice. Hi, my name's Ted. I want a Big Mac. And, you know, and I'm like, I know it's you, Fred. I know it's you. So he wasn't, you know, as smart as he thought. But I would deliver the food through the drive-through register. Totally illegal. Totally not okay to do. But I did it, not even thinking about it, because it has all this food. And, you know, I enjoyed doing this. I really enjoyed it. And I have to say, today, I don't charge people for food. I feed people. I'm a painter. And in 2020, I painted a 9-foot by 6-foot painting of 19 people with 19 different masks on from all over the world. And I called it the 19 Faces of COVID-19. I got international attention for it. Even one child made their thesis out of it in college. I was just like shocked. But it was used in sermons, and I had just, again, I even made Yahoo Business for that painting. But I'm just, you know, so proud of that. But I'm really known for my social issues that I paint. And I have, for the last 7 years, I love to cook. I'm better than my mother. Can't say I'm a gourmet. I don't typically burn things. You know, a few of you had things that I brought a macaroni salad in a bowl with a lid today. I didn't make that. Don't eat it. No, I'm just kidding. It's fine. But anyway, so I just want to let you know that today I actually feed people. I interview them. I hear their story. I do paintings. The paintings travel around. We have compassion.com is my website. Don't have to write it down. I'll tell you later. But what's really cool about that is it tells you places that you can go to get help if you're homeless. If you're a struggling mother and need food bank information, you can go there and find it. And then these paintings, if I can find the people again, which often I can, I will make a 9-inch by 6-inch postcard glossy with that picture on it. And then if you turn it over, it has their favorite saying. And sometimes it's as simple as God love you. And sometimes it's like, I'm the publisher of National Geographic. You don't know. Some people have sermons on the back and they give me this long scripture to put out or whatever their rant is of the day. And then sometimes I can't find them. So I give them to the group of those people that I fed those people, and they sell them for donations of whatever that might be. So what I guess I'm saying is that I was a con artist. I own a marketing company now. I get people to pay me to connect them. It's pretty cool. And there's about 6 million results if you search the name Connected Now, one word or two. And I'm number 1. And I'm number 1 because I ain't nobody's fool. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. It's cool to do illegal things to benefit others, no? Just like our undocumented immigrants that contribute to the economy. It's a good thing. Our next storyteller, you have to check out her website. She's an author. She's been in TED Talk twice, and her latest book was published this year. Isn't that cool? And she's here to tell us a story. Janice, please come up here. All right.
First of all, oh my goodness, everything about your story was just beautiful, amazing, encouraging, impactful. I'm going to follow you. That was really, really, really good. Thanks. I am 16 years old, standing behind a podium looking out at a sea full of faces, and their little eyes are looking right at me. I am in the finals of a speaking competition in high school, and there is a $5,000 scholarship on the line, which I don't know, if you're a sophomore in high school and you hear $5,000, it's kind of a big deal. I drew the shortest straw, so I am first up. Take a deep breath, and I start in with my speech. And for about the first 2 minutes, everything was going great. And then all of a sudden, my mind went completely blank. I mean, just empty, emptier than the gym on Christmas Day. It was that empty. My eyes start getting bigger and bigger as this panicked feeling courses through my entire body. And I look down quickly, but there are no notes because it's the finals and we can't use our little 3x5 cards anymore. Well, I stand there for about 20 or 30 seconds. And let me tell you, you could hear a pin drop in that room. And then finally, something popped into my head and I was able to continue and finish my speech. But needless to say, I lost that speech competition, but I did gain something that day. I gained a new little best friend called the fear of public speaking. And my best friend and I, we linked arms and we walked through life together. As a matter of fact, I refused to speak publicly for another 20 years after that one event in high school. Maybe you all can think back to an event or something that happened in your childhood or adolescence that just has impacted you, even into adulthood. It felt to me like I had put on this invisible backpack and I stuffed in the fear of public speaking. But really, it's not the fear of public speaking. It's the fear of failure, the fear of judgment. What are people going to think about me? The fear of criticism. You didn't do that very well. And I walked through life with this backpack on. Well, I got married at the very ripe age of 20, yes. And along with that, I stuffed some more fears in that backpack. Fear of abandonment, fear of the unknown, fear of not being good enough. And again, I'm just trekking through life, the journey of life with my backpack on that just keeps getting heavier and heavier and heavier as I go along. 14 years into my marriage and 2 beautiful kids later, we end up going through a divorce. And wouldn't you know it, a lot of those fears in that backpack totally came true. And I found myself just in so much emotional pain at my rock bottom. And I remember laying curled up in the fetal position in the bathroom floor, sobbing my eyes out. And I had a really honest conversation with myself. I said, Janice, you're really good at blaming other people. Your dad, your ex-husband, let's throw your mom in there for good measure. Just blame, blame, blame. But you're on the bathroom floor, miserable and stuck. So what about if you change? What? Like I slapped my own self across the face. That's what it felt like. But it resonated with me. There's something deep down. I was like, yes, that is the path. So I made a vow that I was going to do one thing that pulled me straight out of my comfort zone every year. I could do that. One fear per year. I have 365 days to do one thing that triggers all of those fears inside of me. It's been 13 years since I made that vow. And I have this list of 13 different things, actually more, because once you get momentum, you don't want to stop. It is intoxicating. One of the things was to self-publish a memoir, with maybe some family secrets that maybe some people might not be very happy that I've put out there into the world. One year it was learning how to sit in stillness and meditate and actually just sit with myself and with the pain. One year it was a bodybuilding competition. And do I even have to tell you the fears around that? Like men are labeling me, giving me a number compared to these 20-something-year-olds on a stage with my cellulite and my stretch marks from my babies? Fear. Fear. And you might be wondering about that 16-year-old little girl. Well, of course, I had to face the fear of public speaking. So I joined Toastmasters because that's what we do. Yeah, Toastmasters. But you know, they say you have to get back up on the same horse that bucked you off. So I signed up for a speaking competition. I prepared, I practiced, and I lost. But guess what? It was never about winning at that point. It was about proving to that 16-year-old girl who felt the weight of the world on her shoulders when that happened, who put on a happy face but went to bed sobbing because of how she felt inside, proving that she was okay, that it's okay to fail, that it doesn't define who you are. There have been 4 speaking competitions that in these last 13 years I've signed up for and I've lost. About 2 years ago, I signed up for one more, and miraculously, I ended up winning. And guess what the grand prize was? It was. No, guys, it's better. It's better. A trip to Kenya, Africa, to speak at schools and universities to children, spreading messages of hope, of encouragement, and of love. So I learned that yes, we walk through fear to build our own courage muscle for our own personal development, but we walk through fear ultimately so that we can impact, so that we can make a difference in this world. So what is the one fear you are going to walk through this year? Thank you.
Beautiful. Right. All right. I used to play soccer when I was a kid, and then all my life I played soccer. And my father always criticized me, you know, he wanted me to work physically, right? And one of my cousins came with his uncle, and my cousin would um, work physically in front of me, and my father would make fun of me, right? But I was thinking, yeah, but he doesn't play soccer. He doesn't dance. So that's how I defeated my biggest fear. Yeah, and I keep thinking about that all the time, no? When I got fear and I go, oh, well, you know, I can play, well, I don't play soccer anymore, but I can dance. I can dance. Yeah. Our next teller, Megna, please come over here. You have to check her website. She does wonderful things with the Southeast Asian community. No, the all Asian community is wonderful. She has a great project. Please tell us.
away trying to develop prevention programs. And something about my role is I was working as a training and technical assistance specialist at a statewide anti-violence coalition. And I was learning a lot about prevention programs. How can we address the tackle the root causes that prevent sexual and domestic violence in our communities? So I was learning a lot. My colleagues are awesome. And at that day at the desk on March 30th, I take a lunch break and I'm looking at, I said, okay, let me take a break from work. I'll just check my Gmail, which is my professional networking email, for a minute before I resume work. So, I'm like, okay, I check the email. It is 100 email, which feels really good in a cluttered inbox. And I check it, I know who it is from, right? But there are only 2 sentences in the subject or in the body of the email. And I read the email like 5 times, to and fro, up and down. I mean, I wasn't somersaulting, but I was reading the email up and down. And I was shocked. My jaws dropped. I was numb. I was sad. I don't know what I was. I felt like, the Inside Out movie right there. I felt I was in a trance. I felt like a zombie. I felt like it was a sci-fi movie that the email on my computer monitor was kind of, hypnotizing me. And I know you're curious to know what was in that email. I will let you know in a few moments, I promise. But when I was staring at that computer monitor, let me tell you something, what had happened a few months before. You see, earlier that year in January of 2017, I was in my final year of my PhD program while working full time and handling some chronic health issues, right? And it was my first year in Sacramento, of course, excited. My husband had just moved to join me as well. And in all this fun chaos, I finally got a green light from my dissertation advisor to schedule my dissertation defense. So I send a doodle, I coordinate with my committee members, and it is chaotic, it is stressful. I tell my colleagues, and finally we have a date. Do you know how difficult it is to coordinate people's schedules? Right, we should put that on our resume. And so there I was, I finally get a date. And I come and tell my husband so we can take time off, book our tickets to go to Chicago. And I tell him the date was January 20th, 2017. Now, for those who are not connecting the dots, which is totally fine, it was the day of the inauguration that morning of the 45th president. That morning, I had not even thought of it. I was so close to finishing my dissertation that I told myself there's no power force can stop me. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not going to let anything stop me from defending and finishing this. Back of my mind, I was, of course, observing what was going on in our real life, right? In our society, in our communities. We book our tickets, we go to Chicago, and we reach there like Friday morning is my defense in UIC on campus in my department. We reached there on Wednesday night, and Thursday morning, I get a beautiful surprise. I get my period that day, and I'm like, great, period is our best friend. It's fun day. All those who are menstruating, you know how much fun we have. So there I am. I'm like, great. I'm sitting there, making the pillow in the hotel room my best friend, drinking water, having comfort food. And I'm like, you know what? At least I didn't get my period on the day of my defense. So I'm like holding on to the hope. I'm like, again, powering through just as our previous stories. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let it define me. I'm fine. I'll be okay. I rest that day, prepare for my presentation. Next day, I'm on the way to my defense in a cab with my husband. We get some snacks and I'm excited. And I'm telling him, I can't believe the day is finally here. I have spent almost a decade, including my coursework in graduate school. So it was a long journey coming. And I tell him, like, I have gone for previous defenses of my colleagues, I've gone for the doctoral dissertation. There's always so much excitement, the celebration. People are rooting for the PhD candidate. And even though everybody is very like formal and serious at the beginning, you know that they're rooting for the candidate to finish and defend and be called doctor, whatever, right? So we reach there, I set up everything, I start presenting. My husband is there, and there are about 7, 8 colleagues of mine who had invited my committee members. We are sitting in a conference room that I've spent 75% of my graduate school, my classes in. So it was a home away from home. I start presenting for about 20 minutes, and then we start the question answer session. For those who don't know, the committee members will ask us questions. And I am like prepared for it. I've articulated notes. I know this literally in the middle of the night. If you wake me up, I'll know my responses. But that point of time, what I did not anticipate was the level of exhaustion I had, whether it was stress, whether it was the vibes that people had brought into that room without, considering the political ramifications of that day. I felt like I was in a funeral or I was mourning. And I'm a highly sensitive person. I could absorb everything. And I know it wasn't personally against me, but somehow I could feel it. After answering like 3 or 4 questions, I felt my energy just drop to the extent where while I'm answering a question, I have 1,000 tabs on. And in my mind, I'm literally wanting to tell my committee members, you know what? Y'all keep asking questions. I'm just going to take a nap under this table. Give me a blanket and I'll be happy. Like I felt like the puppy who wants to just take a nap. And I was ready to do that. We finished the questions. They told us to stay out because they are going to discuss. So they closed the conference room. My husband and I wait, and usually it takes about half an hour to 45 minutes approximately, or lesser than that. I wait. By then, I was almost tempted to tell my husband, you know what, tell them whatever they decide, I accept. I'm going to go to the hotel room and nap. I could feel my energy like a load of bricks. By the end of 45 minutes, no sign. And I was like, did the world swallow them inside like a sci-fi movie in that conference room? Did they run out from a door that I did not know, leaving me hanging with this verdict, whether I passed or not? At that point, I did not care. And finally, I ended up, I just told them, I was like, okay, in an hour and a half, my advisor comes out, tells me to come in, and in a very, again, of course, in a very sweet, celebratory way, congratulates me and says, you passed the defense. It still didn't hit me because I felt again like, am I coming to a funeral? What is going on? With that being said, people come in, we celebrate. They gave me my revisions to make, a lot of revisions. And I go back, we have a lovely lunch leaving the conference room, my husband and I go to the hotel room and take the best nap ever. After that, I reach back to Sacramento, start working on those revisions, which were really cumbersome while working full-time job, right? And I was like, I just don't want to do like 80%, even though I passed. I don't want to do just 80% of those revisions. I'm going to put in my 200% best. And I worked my butt off. And by early March, I submitted it to the committee members. Not all of them were happy. One of them was disappointed. And at that point of time, I'm like, I love my research. I am freaking proud of my imperfect research. And it may not be ever perfect, but I'm going to hold on to that. I apologized to them. They said, okay, you know what, we're giving you a green light, submitted to the graduate college. I'm like, oh, finally. I submitted to the graduate college and I have amnesia. No, I'm just kidding. But I literally have amnesia because I'm like, I don't remember anything what happened before that. It becomes like a, kind of like a completely hazy, again, a sci-fi movie. I come back to Sacramento, resume my work. And it comes back to March 30th, the day I was looking at that email. It was from UIC Graduate College. And the email said, hi, Meghna, your dissertation has been approved. There's no revisions necessary. Congratulations. I couldn't believe it. And that's why it was a roller coaster of emotions. That was just one of the many stories that had led me to a denial that this email was maybe trying to like April Fool, maybe not. But I realized that April was, from that year or the next year onwards, I realized it was not just a time of sitting in that messiness. It's also about embracing my imperfections with compassion. It's about letting go. It's about grieving. It was also getting enraged that I was deprived of the joy of celebrating my doctoral defense. But one last thing I'll let you, how do I say? I invite you to think about it. Is in between April and May, I told my husband, I said, you know what? For the commencement ceremony, I want a whole big party. So in Chicago, we kind of reserved the bar. We had appetizers. I wore my black short dress. I went to the salon, got my red lipstick, got a wonderful cake. And I said, I am going to party for the imperfect messy dissertation, and for my younger self who never had dreamt that she would finish her PhD. So April is not for fools, but it was definitely for preparing for my celebration. Thank you.
And we're so happy that you finished your dissertation and we can call you doctor. All right. Next, we have our poet, Melchor. Come over here. Melchor is a young poet from Stockton, and his book is called Sorry I'm Late. And I checked his website, and Melchor makes stuff. He makes stuff. He's a poet, he's a musician, he's a playwright, and he just makes stuff. So please welcome Melchor.
A product of people doing illegal things for the benefit of others, I think. So hi, everybody. My name is Melchor Sagun III. To make a short story long, I was born on a very cold New Year's Eve in 1983. No, I'm just kidding. It won't start there. This is my book. It's called Sorry I'm Late. For a lot of reasons, I'm generally tardy to everything that I go to. I'm also was late to publishing this. I published it right before I turned 40 in 2023. So I never know which poems to start with because poems are supposed to represent your whole person or whatever. But mine are all mostly sad, so we're gonna just roll with it. Does anybody like sad poems? All right, that makes me feel a little better. This poem is about one of those fears that I heard talk about earlier. I think self-doubt or something like that. Called Crackle. I heard a voice float through the air. I read a phone book of transcripts and called waiting by a secondary name, absence. I pushed play on old messages recorded in my head, remembered my old pager number, and checked the voicemails that, for their time, seemed like magic. I looked at the power lines around every city I visited and wondered if my energy could follow them as examples, like maybe I could make my body a network. Maybe I could force myself into being a radar blip or a broken chain of Morse code. Maybe I could still use my nervous system to communicate. Maybe communication systems still make me nervous. Maybe I heard a voice sneak into my ear, some soothing static, like a shaky melody, like a buzz that says safe, or a beacon that screams home, like a fixing up of language to better speak love. All I know is my signal is jammed. And sometimes I muddy up my own broadcast. Sometimes I don't receive the messages intended for me. Sometimes I hear a voice, and it's mine, and it's got great news, and I don't listen. I also like to write love poems, though. So this is a love poem I wrote to somebody who was a painter, and who I would watch. They build their canvases, sometimes, and it's an interesting thing to watch. And of course, then I took that process and made it about me. I was like, how did? Because I'm a poet. That's what we do. The one fear I never got over is stage fright, oddly enough. Been doing this for 25 years. This one's called Building a Canvas. I've made frames before, for work, for awkward dashes of the eyes. Out of hair strands and paper shreds, I've constructed context. I've built things before. Stories and strategies, messes and motivation, not all structurally sound, but they made beautiful sequences while crashing. Masterpieces of shattered glass, see-through senses of security, Simple outlines broken down to so many small cuts on your knuckles, nicks on your fists like constellations against the empty space of your hands. I've held things together. I've let things go. Correction, I've dropped things. And this has always been me trying to pick them back up, trying to piece myself out of apathetic architect and into collected carpenter, trying to sweep up this doomed draftsman and make something viable of near broken bones. It's pins and mat board and half-assed binding, and it isn't strong enough. It's proof and landslide and dingy landscape. It's me, stretched and stapled, ready for a makeover. They hold my back for stretch and staple. They lie me down for stretch and staple. They make supports of my spine and skin, and I promise this stretched and stapled blueprint is sheet music for my demolition, and I will make it sing. I'll paint it throat with all the colors of heart. I'll nail our palms together. It'll be riveting. I'll fill in our scars with long sleeves and bad dreams, paint over everything with a new hue each week, solid, but underneath, still lifes of our sleeplessness. So many wear their chaos beautifully. I'm sorry I hide mine under layers of dated fashion. I've been high-strung since the 80s. I'm sorry for taking up space on the wall. I'm sorry we're all on display. I'm sorry, but hey there, pretty picture. What's your hang up?
Oh.
Okay, I was gonna bring I have this fancy notebook with all these cool stickers on it. And I was gonna read from it, but it's empty, and I was just gonna put my phone in it and read like this, like a like an X-Men comic in a textbook kind of deal. But I forgot it at home. So here it is, it's a phone. I really just started writing poetry as a vehicle for stand-up comedy. I don't care about poetry at all. I just like telling jokes. So this is just how I had to do it. Because everybody knows poetry is super popular and lucrative, and so I think I chose the right path in life. Financially stable. This is about a path in life. I think it's an interesting thing when you come from a past of addiction. The idea that people sometimes ask you like, oh, like, how did you start not wanting to do that stuff? And I'm like, what do you mean not wanting to do that stuff? Because a large part of it is like, you know you can't do it. Doesn't matter whether you want to or not. And in the state of the world, in this glorious state of this wonderfully surprising world that we live in, sometimes rue the day I got sober. I'm just kidding, of course. I don't, but also I do. And this one, this poem is about that sort of confliction. It's called A Pretty Decent Descent. They said love the struggle, so I did. Piled pills into an empty stomach, dragged myself across prescriptions, expiration dates lost in the orange sands. Journey guided by warning label oasis, I was given to grains so white they shined. Beams breathed in tasted like streaks of light. Endeared to the endeavor, I rode on winds through nights made of fire. Blazing sunsets drained down the back of our throats, spoke flames to assist the globe that just needed to get hotter. Climate change crystallized in measured method. All an adventure in dependence, a habit of holding, landing an expedition humming through good trips in bad faith. Soundtrack music box made from a map, scratches in skin like directions. Compulsive composition fine printed in the rug's topography. A path from past to present, those terrains still sing their numb songs. The mixed melodies still message. Intake inbox was always high tolerance. I sorted my vices like organization meant order and wandered destinations of substance. Trudged past temples lost to overuse, bodies buried under roots, devotees to consumption, run-ons until sentenced to death. I followed. A natural scavenger, I scrounged my way into situations, looking like leftovers. I dug into people like baggies, chasing crumbs that led everywhere, nowhere. Kept me on top of the world. Then I took a cleaner trail. Then I saw a better way. And now I'm at the bottom. Thanks. I also have just crazy ADHD, so I'm trying to, I tell myself I'll remember everything and then I'm like, don't. But perfect. This is one that I actually really like reading, so I'm always glad to end on it. Let me find it. So you can find me on social media at Smoker Buddy is my handle for Instagram and the other sites and stuff. If you search Melchor Sagoon, I'm generally the first result because it's not a very common name. I'm the third, so it's like if you see Junior, that's my dad. Don't message him. He'll try to get you for money. I told you illegal things, right? That's where I get it. Yeah, I'm also a chronic oversharer. Who'd have thought? This poem is called I'm Not in a Room, I'm in a Lake. I daydream of small things, eyelashes clumped together, a faint heartbeat of static read through stethoscope hands, an indescribable feeling adrift on an immense and inexplicable endlessness. Small things. Like fleeting glimpses of my calling or the meaning of life left microscopic under my fingernails when I don't read fine print. I only dream of small things and they aren't always clear. Like warnings or a windshield, they might get you there on or in an accident. And though they could be as simple as clean me written in dirt, they won't be. As if I could be anything other than blurry lens. As if I could fake the fogginess when I'm too tired in my nightmares of shattered glass, where the fragmented letters are unrecognizable. They're just dream things. Code broken down to grains of sand. And you can't read sand. You can tell time with it though. You could live on a beach and count it until you're dead. Until the little creatures crawl through looking for the you that isn't there. A small disappearance, no big deal. Just the beginnings of overgrowth on the path to wakefulness, misleading seedlings, like the unfinished message I'll leave to everyone else on the trail. You'll never find me. But if you do, bring help. Thanks.
Okay, so we're gonna take a little break, 10 minutes, and we'll be back. Yeah, at 3 o'clock. All right. Oh,
Okay.
there we go. Okay. It's a sad day today because I'm hosting the event. And also, we're also not very lucky today because our next teller is not here. Amy B is not here. But luckily, we have somebody who can replace her today. Yeah. And we have, I'm gonna read his bio. Keith Lowell Jensen is here. I'm gonna read his bio. Keith Lowell Jensen is great. Come on.
Exactly like we rehearsed. Thank you so much. Let me do my commercial first real quick, if I could. If you'll indulge me, I do a show along with Amy B and Aaron Carnes called In a Nutshell at the Sophia. We're there every month presenting, I would say, the best storytellers in the world, at least the best ones we can afford to bring to Sacramento. And of course, we draw from Sacramento a lot. But I'm also very excited to announce that we are starting a new show that's going to be on the third Thursday of the month at Old Soul in the Alley in Midtown Sacramento. And that one, we will invite some of our favorite storytellers. In fact, we've invited John to come do the first one. But we're also going to have open mic slots available, and we're going to draw names out of a giant nutshell, because drawing names out of a hat was just too taken gauche. Yeah, old hat. That's what it is. So yeah, come on out. You get a chance to tell stories, and our whole, like, what need we're looking to fill is a place where people can work on new stories that are more than 5 minutes long. And I understand the 5-minute limit because you want to get a lot of people up, and I think it's great, but we're going to have a place where you can work on longer form stories, both established storytellers and new people. So I hope you'll all come and attend that. It should be great. All right. All right, so when I was 15 years old, I wanted a job. I wanted a job more than anything in the world. I wanted to wear the corduroy uniform and the name tag. I wanted to have an identity because school was not going well. I knew that I wasn't finding success there, and I hoped to start something new and get a job. But you couldn't have a job at 15. You had to be 16 to get a work permit. And I wanted that job with every fiber of my being, which is so odd to remember now, because all I want now is to never have to have a job again. Right? And I craved it. And a friend of mine said, well, go to the golf course. He said, they don't care if you have a work permit at the golf course. So I went down to Diamond Oaks Golf Course in Roseville, California, and I walked into the pro shop and I tried to be cool. And I said, hey, I heard that you guys hire people and they don't have to have a work permit. Is that true? And the guy at the pro shop said, well, I don't know. I heard that we could pay you less than minimum wage. Is that true? And I said, that's, yeah, you heard right. Minimum wage at the time was $2.75. That's what was more than I was worth, apparently, to this guy, but I didn't care. I wanted a job. And so he gave me an application to fill out. And when I speak to people, millennial or younger, I have to explain, to get a job back then, you actually took a piece of paper, a physical piece of paper. And what paper is it's a smashed wood pulp that's been bleached white, and then you scratched symbols on it with ink straw. So like a magic wand on a tablet, you know, it was a magical time to be alive. And I filled it all out and made up references and did all the stuff and turned it on. And I don't even know if they looked at it. They wanted to see if I could read and write. And again, I don't even know that would have been a deal breaker if I couldn't. And they hired me. Real quick, I want to ask, do we have any golfers here today? Yeah, okay. Golfers are terrible, terrible people. Glad there's not more of them. And I'm sorry, golfers, and I wouldn't disparage you like that without providing evidence. I'm going to tell you about my first day working at Diamond Oaks Public Golf Course, and you'll see that the golfers are going to get why this is funny before the rest of you, because they're jerks. Ed, the pro, says to me, you're going to work out on the range sweeping up the golf balls while the golfers are driving on the range. And occasionally one of the balls will hit the cart on accident. Yeah. That's real funny, isn't it? Occasionally and on accident are the lies in Ed's sentence. But I'm just stoked to drive something. That's fun. I have a job and I get to drive something at 15. So he takes me out and they have this ATV outfitted with a cage around it. And the cage is to protect me from that guy that was just laughing because he's going to try to hit me with the golf ball while I sweep up the balls from the range. And I'm towing a trailer and it knocks all the balls into these little baskets that are back there. So I was like, okay, cool, this will be fun. So I get out there and the balls start hitting the cage like crazy, more than they would on a normal day because I'm new. And this guy's like, oh, fresh meat, get him, you know. And so they're all trying to clobber me and it's shaking me up and I'm jumping and I'm startled. I get through it, come back in, like shaking a little bit. Ed says, you okay? And I go, yeah, let's do it. And empty the baskets, get back out there, champ. 2 weeks in, I'm fine. 2 weeks in, I'm immune. They can't get to me anymore. And they stop trying as hard. They still keep hitting me, but not as hard because I've gotten used to it. I put on my headphones, I listen to The Cure or Echo and the Bunnymen, and I sweep the range and I don't let them bother me. Until one day, I'm out on the range and there's a guy, and I think he might have been a pro because every ball he hit smashed straight into that cage surrounding me and hit hard, one after the other. He was able to tee him up and hit him quickly. Boom, boom, boom. He hit them with such force that they started sticking in the links of the cage. And I was worried that a ball would hit a ball that was already stuck and then come in and clobber me in the head. And at one point I looked and there were 3 of them in a row and I yelled, tic-tac-toe, man, you win. But this, of course, just encouraged him. And so he keeps driving them. And then there's a slight pause, like he's psyching himself up or something. And it's a pregnant pause. And I tense up because I know something's coming. And he hits the ball with such force that I hear the crack. And I swear, in my memory, I heard the ball come whistling in like a nuclear weapon in one of those 80s day after films. It was my doom heading towards me, just. And I braced up and it smashed the corner of the cage and it hit it so hard that the balls that were already in the cage got shook and fell out onto the floor. And I let go of the steering mechanism and I stopped the thing. And everyone noticed that the cart going back and forth across the range stopped, which doesn't normally happen. And I turned and I looked at him. And I pointed at him. I pointed with both hands, but not with the traditional pointing finger. Really more up than him. And I wasn't in control of my mouth, which was a common situation for me back then. And I heard myself unleashing a torrent of obscenities at him and every golfer on that range. Months of tension and aggression just coming out of my mouth at them. And I knew a lot of curse words because we had cable. So I said them all, you know, and then I stopped. And now all the golfers are staring at me and they're quiet and I'm quiet. And I expect someone to go, all right, let's give the kid a break. You know, that's enough. But instead, the main golfer went, like Tiger Woods getting a hole in one, and the rest of them started clapping and patting him on the back. And I was like, oh, you sons of bitches. And I just start the track up again. And then every single one of them tried to hit me with as many balls as they could, as fast as they could. They were raining in on me. You guys have heard people say golf ball sized pieces of hail? It was hailing golf ball sized golf balls. It was terrifying. This is my Vietnam. I still wake up in a cold sweat from this dream. My wife says, what is it? I was like, the balls are everywhere. She's like, the golf course or the other one? I was like, the golf course, of course. You see, I'm upset, right? But I've cursed them out. I know that I'm in trouble, but I'm not going to also slack off on my duties of and come back in with the baskets now full. So I endure this and I keep sweeping. And then finally I drive back in to the pro shop. And I'm trying to think of some way in my head to excuse what's happened. And as I pull in, I see Ed standing there waiting for me. So I pull up, baskets are full. I hop out of my cage, already apologizing. Ed, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The guy was really good. I think he's a pro. He kept smacking the cage and I lost my temper and I'm really sorry. And Ed says, Keith, they were sending their children to get more baskets of balls. You really upset them. What you did out there today, what you did in my name on my golf course, that was fantastic. We've never rented that many balls in one day before. Can you do that every time? And I said, I can. I absolutely can. And this is the story I tell when people ask how I got started in show business. Thank you guys very much.
Wait, huh?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
All right.
yeah, broke stuff.
I told you we're lucky, see?
Yeah,
Sad and lucky at the same
same
time.
time, yeah.
By the way, this is my first time doing this. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know what the hell I'm doing,
Hired.
but thank you. Thank you. Our next teller, never mind what is written on the program. He gave me a little bio. It needed to be modified, so I'm gonna read it. And I'm gonna introduce John. John is here. Let me see. It says John Patterson bio. John is working on his childhood memoir and having short pieces published. His card is on the back table if you would like to find out about his writings or invite him to tell one of his true tales, mostly about the early boomer years of post-war California. Okay. After college, John backpacked in South America for 6 months. He's worked industrial jobs as a lawyer and a public educator before retiring. He stole a few times, here with Capital Storytelling at senior residences, a couple of times at the Berkeley Moth open mic in Londonderry, Vermont, and a coffee farm in Colombia a couple of months ago. And now here's John.
And a new board member.
And a new board member.
I'm not really bored. So this is how I came to tell the story in Colombia. So this is about appreciating the finer things in life, something that I've always tried to learn how to do. So going back to the early 70s, I was working at night, unloading trucks for United Parcel and working my way through college. Took me a few years. And one of my friends unloading trucks, he asked me to come over in the afternoon, meet his wife, their new child, and went over with my partner, Linda. And they introduced us to coffee. I was about 22 years old. I'd never drank any coffee at all, although for about 15 years I'd been making it for my parents. But the smell, it never appealed to me. And so they had this really dark coffee they got out of this strange little pot. It was like a funnel on the bottom and bent on the top. And then they said, it's really good with a little bit of honey and a little bit of cream. And I drank it. And, I had 2 cups like that. And that afternoon, I just had a really good time. I was very excited. We talked and shared a lot of different stories back and forth. And about a week later, we went back and we got some more. And I said, where do you get this coffee? And he said a place called Grafeo's Coffee Shop in North Beach. And he told me where it was. And it was a little triangle coffee shop. We went and met Mr. Grafeo. I don't know his last name. And the little Italian coffee roaster named Mr. Grafeo. And he's an Italian gentleman who lost his forearm fighting Mussolini's people during World War II. And I asked him about coffee and why his coffee tasted so good. And he sold us one of those little espresso pots and a few pounds of Italian roast coffee. And he walked over to his little coffee roaster, which had a flue. It looked like a little fireplace, actually, that went up to the ceiling, picked up a bat, hit the flue, opened the bottom, and he said, see this coal? That's what comes out of coffee when you roast it longer. They don't do that in this country. Folgers doesn't do it. They don't do it because that's a lot of weight you can sell to people. But that's where the tars and the acids are. So I really like that coffee. He said it's all Arabica beans. Years later, a few months ago, happened to be on a trip in Colombia, and we're on a coffee plantation. And I learned that in Colombia, there's over 500,000 different coffee growers. And all they grow is Arabica beans. And they're the major producer of Arabica beans in the world. And those are the beans with a little S shape on the cleavage. It's not straight down. And they're the #1 producer. And what's different about those beans and a lot of the shrubs that are being cultivated around the world by different corporations who sell coffee every other corner in some places, is that those trees aren't shook and then the beans fall off and get harvested. These beans are individually picked on the sides of mountains at high elevation, 6,000 to 9,000 feet, when they're ripe. Not all the beans ripen at the same time and grow at the same time. So all the time they're walking around through their orchards, small farms, picking individual beans. And then they're carefully dried, they're graded into 3 grades and shipped around the world. Well, we're here at this coffee plantation. They're showing us how they pick the individual beans, and they're in gunny sacks piled up in front of a Jeep. And Jeeps are very popular in Colombia because that's how they get around the mountains. And there was a deal made by the Coffee Growers Association and the US Army after the Korean War, because somebody in Colombia realized the United States had a lot of Jeeps from World War II in Korea they weren't using. And they started to buy, at first, 1,000 Jeeps for $25 each. And they started to buy Jeeps ever since. And a lot of them now are new and really tricked out. And a lot of them have been welded in different places together for 50 or 60 years, and they're still running. Anyway, at the end of this, I'm looking at the gunny sack, and I'm reminded, and I talked to our tour leader, and I said, I know a little more about what happens to these gunny sacks after they're stitched together and shipped to the United States. Can I explain that? He said, yes. So this was the little story I shared. I couldn't work at nights all the time, so I gave that up for a while trying to get through college. And one of the jobs I got was as a part-time longshoreman. So you show up at the Longshore Hall. It's underneath where San Francisco Giant Stadium is now. And it was off an alley. And a few college students like me who found out about it, we shared the information. But mostly very adult men, mostly 98% not Anglo, ready to do this hard work. And they were called out day by day if there was a job. You had a plug that went in the plug board. So as a longshore workers, #2. So this one day I got called out to a job on the San Francisco Wharf where, I can still remember they unloaded boats down in San Francisco. And Pier 39 was not a fun place. None of you would even want to walk around Embarcadero back then.
Yep.
The restaurants and the coffee shops back there had 3 inches of fresh sawdust on the floors every day to keep the floors clean from the boots of the guys coming in and out. It's the kind of place it was. So this job I get dispatched on, we go into an old freighter down at the hull, and they had lifted out all the sacks of coffee, the regular longshoremen, that were stacked on pallets. Well, of course, pallets and what's stacked on a pallet goes straight up and across, and they stack the pallets on top of each other. But a ship bells out as it goes up. Well, they're not going to waste that space. That space is all filled with sacks, but they're not on pallets. That's harder work. So the regular longshoremen go on to the jobs where they're getting most of the tonnage out of the ships, getting good money for it, but this is the scrap work. This is the really hard work. This is the work that doesn't pay the same and isn't as regular. And one of the things I learned the first day is you want to have gloves on because the gunny sacks slide right through your fingers and will tear your skin off if you're trying to keep up and not get sent home early because you're not doing anything. You're either getting it all out or you're not doing anything. There's no in between rating. So the other thing is, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but in the old time pictures of longshoremen, they had these handle things with hooks that came off the top. That's to grab the other end of cotton bales and coffee and sugar bags. And so got one of those on a little carrier, pick up one end of the bag with that, the other end with your glove, and you just move it. You get it into a basket, they lift it out, and you just keep doing that all day. So, I miss one day of class, I get good money, enough to support us for maybe 5 days and hope for another job, right? Anyway, to this day, I go home, I love dark roast coffee. I grind it every day for myself. I remember Richard, who gave us the coffee, said the first time back in 1970s, he said, a lot of people don't know how to appreciate coffee as he's putting some honey in it, some cream in it. I just like it black. I like the smell of it. I drink it. I know how to appreciate good coffee. I'm nobody's fool. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right. When I was in Colombia, we're drinking really good coffee. And the guy said, see those warehouses down there? Yeah. Well, that's where all the shitty coffee goes. And the Japanese buy all of that. And they sell it like the greatest coffee. I had no idea. So, yeah. That's what he said. I told her we're lucky. So our next poet, Mr. Marvell Wilson, please come up here and give us your poetry. Actually, he's known for being a spoken word artist. I don't know what he's gonna do. He's great.
I'm great. That's the short bio.
Sure, bye.
I'm great. I'm gonna start off by,
Okay, you're gonna have to
okay,
turn the mic towards you.
right, I'm gonna start off by giving you a short original poem, one of my favorites, by Marvell Wilson, a poem by Marvell Wilson. I love red and I love blue. But most of all, I love red. In this climate now, I know this is a storytelling format and a lot of people told very good stories, very eloquently done. I appreciate all of them. However, I'm going to tell a story about a group of people because the climate that we're in right now, it seems as though the history of this group is being overcalled. And it seems like the history of this group is being erased. There's an erasure process going on. So I'm going to make an effort to dispel some of those things that this group has been known or said to represent. And I'll start off by saying, hey, your eyes, they tell a story, such a sad, sad story. Hey, of the things you feel inside, of the things you cannot hide. My friend, I see trouble in your eyes. Hey, there ain't no justice in that picture that you're painting of me in your mind. Ain't no justice, 'cause that face ain't mine. The 3/5 myth. 20 score and 6 years ago, our foremothers and forefathers were brought forth to this continent to create a new nation, conceived in captivity and dedicated to the proposition that some men were created to be superior and others were created to serve them. Convinced of this notion, they then proceeded to the ocean aboard ships with great capacity to hold, setting their sails toward land to souls and souls foretold to be grand, to kidnap bodies to be worked or to be sold. Using the guns' devastations, they brought terror to these nations, looting and pilfering as much as they could plunder. Brandishing guns as well as whips, they loaded spoils on the sterns of their ships, while the people from the land were stockpiled down under. The journey was harsh and cruel, and their diet was mush and gruel. Needless to say, many died along the way. With the weak along with the dead, to the sharks they were readily fed, persuading the survivors to just stay put and just to pray. Upon their arrival to the new land, they were forced into demand to harvest crops of tobacco, cane, sugar, and cotton, then left to live in squalor so their captors could make $1 while urging their culture and their names to be forgotten. In 1787, a voting concern led to captors to discern and to compromise to construct a new decree that for every 5 captives that were under their control, for voting purposes, they would only get credit for 3. Now, despite the contributions, diligence, and good spiritedness shown through many terrible acts of treachery, there's still this conclusion, this mythical illusion, to raise question to the validity of their humanity.
Wow.
Justice or just us? You make the call. A very real effort is now going forth to cast the appropriate lights upon people who've experienced being constantly left to be finally brought to the right. For 400 years and plus and counting, they're patiently awaiting their turn for the respect, recognition, and compensation they worked so diligently to earn. The only issue that remains outstanding is what and when they should be paid. As for the matter of if they deserve it or not, that decision should have already been made. I'm going to share with you, and I hope that you can relate as maybe an offspring or maybe even a parent, an experience, and you can make the call. It could be OWED or ODE to the captain. I know of none who really know where the souls and spirits go when our hearts have lost the art in the flowing of life's love. Nor do I know when that precious nectar ceases to flow, if one's destiny is heaven's expectancy, either then or quite frankly thereof. I do, however, know the pain of the bereaved who remained, those tattered and torn with their motions left all askew. I being among the 7 seedlings sired, all yearning a closeness that's yet desired, alas to settle for only remembrance, and even them so few. A father's children left behind him, with only scant memories to remind them, makes mixed emotions for them an unavoidable price, and thus making it difficult to cater to, in this case, a painter, guilty of abandonment, not just once, but what now seems to be twice. It is quite enough to appall the appearing unfairness of it all, the captain's mutiny of ships born by and of his own direction. Yet it is for each vessel to sort for a harbor of safe and likely port, and chart a course for its own best protection. Thus it does no good to blame the womb and loins from whence one came for winds and currents that might run one ship aground, but to map its destination, set compass and course for navigation, or through its fear, it may just disappear without making a sound. So not let the turns and toils of strife cause you any ignorance to the life that was the gift that was from your captain to you. For we may not really know where our skipper is right now, but his legacy lies in the dignity of what's left of his crew. I'm speaking to a group of people, and hopefully you can share the message, because we're not here right now, but you can convey. This is called Let Us. In my heart, there's a want for these people of mine to open their eyes and draw a clear and definitive line between what's left and what's right, what's cold and what's hot, what's really important and what really is not. For the values we now praise, rarely ever choosing to question, have woven their way through our culture and society by the mere power of suggestion. Let our desires not exceed our budgets in the stores and malls in which we shop, buying glued together shoes and man-made materials at $150 a pop. Let us cease to allow those designers to cleverly sell us their wares while our dollars fund all their ventures, and for all their trips, we pay their favors. Let us finally begin to recognize that most of these values are just a mirage, like having a 40,000 vehicle parked on the street but not in a garage. Let us relax from all these tensions and no longer continue to pretend that what defines our worth and purpose is a glow that's from without rather than from within. Like the richness of the grape that's ripened beneath the skin belies its wines, it's what's beneath our shells and skins where our majesty best shines. So men, let your principles become your values and give our children more than just a clue that the woman might be the stronger guardian, even if she gets a little more attention to you than you. Men, let's compromise, let's recognize, not compromise, and assume our roles as leaders again, forsaking the making of dollars for the sake of us making more sense. So our women will have to tell the children that they're also the men. So men, let's look to each other to support our weaknesses and disallow ourselves to become susceptible to a court system that serves only to punish us for where we've been. And I'll leave it at that.
Ooh, all right.
I have a piece that I wrote in 1980 that it was a experience that I was having. I was writing my autobiography in the penitentiary. And I had plenty of time because I was a tutor. And I tutored for 2 hours a day, and that gave me all the rest of the day to write. I was writing. I restructured chapters 8-10 times, and I was really feeling good. But then after a while, about 7 months, I felt like I wasn't going to finish. So I was gonna throw in the towel. The Spirit of God said, no. Tell you what, I'll give you something to work with to keep you inspired. And he gave me the bone. I was born perfect, brilliant, eager, breastfed, no Similac. I was a bright child with a keen mind and keen senses. I often took my guardians aback. Yet very young, I learned the horror, lies in the aura of my just being Black. It was that recognition that probably spurred my depression. I wondered if I'd get back. I was acute and astute, and much attention I did attract. Had more brains than I had brawn that envious peers began to attack. So it was in the act of self-defense that I soon developed a knack for ruthless thoughts and ruthless deeds. Wondered if I'd get back. Cool and hit the cigarette, so I got me a pack. Heard escape could be found in weed, went in on the sack. Sought oblivion through the use of heroin, got a syringe, and soon my first track. For a spell, free from hell, didn't even want to get back. Yet voice to feel, so I thought of money, determined to get myself a stack. Had fantasies of prestige, clothes, hoes, a Cadillac. Programmed my mentality for pimping. I thought I'd at least become a Mac. But I lacked the jive to ever arrive, so I never took off. Didn't have to get back. Then I saw a time, yes, so sublime, to raise my fist as an American Black. The opposition's proposition was to overreact. Best to run, heard sounds of guns and that menacing clickety, clack, clack. My self-esteem now a fleeting dream. Wondered if it would ever come back. So I numbed my pain with cocaine, became a loyal servant to crack, traded my wife, my kids, my life for a whim and a shim in the stack. Losing weight, death now my fate. I knew not how I would retract, but I caught a case, then had to face time without any slack. So I'm in the joint, guess they made their point, gave me a bedroll in the rack. Heard racial slurs and provocative purrs from the mouths of a penitentiary hack. Cross-examined and psychoanalyzed by that facility's well-paid quack. Then my contemplations and wholehearted concentrations on not ever coming back. Now, having this time to reflect, I soon began to detect the distinct pattern that was shown, that although a king, I had a thing for without battle, just handing over my throne. Yet part of the grace of my being locked in such a place was having that valuable and precious time alone to discover that the lack was not really in my back, but merely in the development of the bone.
Wow.
Powerful, huh? All right. Our last teller asked me to introduce him, so I'm gonna read his introduction. Walter is a third generation Californian on both sides of his family, going all the way back to the 1880s. Now retired, Walter discovered storytelling through Toastmasters, and it opened a whole new world for him. Walter is currently an apprentice storyteller. Today, he's going to share a trickster tale with you. Trickster tales are a special kind of story. They feature clever characters, whether animal, human, or even divine, who use their wits to outsmart others and get what they want. Tricksters are cunning, funny, unpredictable. They often shake things up in surprising ways. They challenge the status quo and remind us that brains can beat brawn. Sit back and enjoy this playful journey into the world of tricksters. The title of Walter's tale is The Fox Who Pretended to be a Tiger. Who's the king of the forest?
Welcome.
Long, long ago, in a vast forest, there lived the great tiger. This was no ordinary tiger. He was enormous. His claws were as sharp as razors, longer than my fingers. When the tiger roared, Leaves trembled. When the tiger's roar, you could be heard throughout the forest. When the animals heard the tiger's roar, they fled in fear, hid, terrorized. The great tiger would roam his forest, looking for his next victim to eat. The animals of the forest lived in fear of the great tiger. This is why they called him the king of the forest. One day, a little red fox is trotting down a road. He's on his way to see his new girlfriend, trying to decide where they were going to go for dinner. It was a beautiful day in the forest. The sun was shining. The spirits of the forest were whispering through the forest. All was well. A family of blue jays was fluttering in the trees. Squirrels were scampering across branches, some eating acorns, others chasing each other playfully. Suddenly, the bluebirds took flight. The squirrels raced to the top of the trees. The wind shifted. This little fox stopped, noticing a shift in the wind. It was as if the spirits of the forest were telling him trouble is coming to the forest. He stopped. He turned and he looked around and he looked around. And then he saw it. The great tiger. The great tiger is chasing me. What am I going to do? I can't outrun him. Think, find an escape. Ah, I have an idea. The little fox stood in the pathway and he waited for the tiger to approach. He felt him, he sensed him. Just as the tiger was ready to reach out his razor claw, the fox turned and faced the tiger. Tiger, what are you doing? What do you want? Tiger was befuddled. He had never been challenged before. I am going to eat you for lunch. Give me a break. How dare you? Didn't you get the memo? Memo? What memo? Everybody in the forest got the memo. You have been dethroned. You are no longer the king of the forest. I am now the king of the forest. Impossible! I do not believe it. My father, his father, and his father before him, we have been kings of the forest for 100 years. How dare you challenge me? Give me a break. Do you want me to prove to you that I am now the king of the forest? Yes, prove it to me. But little fox, beware. If you fool me, if you trick me, I am going to take you apart, tear you apart limb from limb, and eat you and enjoy every bite. Little fox says, come with me, come with me. They go through the meadow. They get, and they're going down the pathway in the forest. The great tiger says, what am I going to do? Why don't I just grab him now and end this charade? Enjoy my lunch. In the meantime, the little fox is saying, tiger, closer, closer, come closer to me. They approach a meadow. Grass is flowing. There's a river flowing through the meadow. There is peace in the meadow. In the meadow are a group, families of deer. There are the elder deer watching over, the mother deer feeding their babies, children deer playing in the river. The fox turns to the tiger and he says, do you see those monkeys? You see, those deer, all those deer in the forest. Watch what happens when I step into the forest. See, come tiger, come tiger. The The fox steps into the meadow. The tiger is standing over. The fox lets out a low whistle. The deer turn toward the whistle and they panic in total fear. They all run from the forest, deep into the forest and hide. The rabbit, the beaver, and the raccoon all flee the meadow. Suddenly, the meadow is empty. The once peaceful meadow is deserted. Did you see that? Did you see what all those animals did when they saw me, the king of the forest? They fled in fear. Do you believe me now? No, I saw it, but I do not believe it. This can't be true. My family has ruled this forest for years. Okay, I want to show you one more time. Come with me. I will show you. They go through the meadow. They're walking down the pathway. The tiger is thinking, how did this happen? How did I let this little fox get this? What am I going to do? In the meantime, about the fox saying, tiger, closer, closer, closer. They come to a clearing. The clearing is filled with rocks and boulders and tall trees. In the clearing are families of monkeys, elder monkeys watching over, mothers feeding their babies, other monkeys playing and grooming with each other. The fox says to the tiger, see all those monkeys? See how much fun they are having? See how much peaceful and quiet there is in the forest? Watch what happens when I, the king of the forest, step into the clearing. Come, tiger, come, tiger. The fox steps in the clearing. The tiger is standing over. Just as the fox is ready to let out a low whistle, one of the monkeys turns and sees. Fear and panic. The monkey sends out a cry of alarm. All of the monkeys flee into the trees as high as they can. The other animals all flee into the forest. Again, the clearing is deserted. Peaceful no more. Did you see that? Did you see what the monkeys did when they saw me? Now do you believe that I am the king of the forest? I believe it, but I do not accept it. This cannot be true. But yes, you are the king of the forest. I order you, as king of the forest, to leave this forest today, now, and never come back. The tiger looks at the little fox, looks at the empty clearing, nods, turns, and walks to the forest. He gets to the edge of the forest. He turns and looks one more time. He sees the fox standing there, and behind him are all the animals of the forest standing in defiance. The tiger looks, shakes his head, turns, and walks deep into the forest, never to be seen again.
That's a gold trickery there.
Thank you, everybody. Good job. Thank you for coming. Thank you for taking the time to be here and share your stories. They were powerful. They were amazing. Before we leave, we have some announcements. Come on in.
Hi, I'm Karen Daly and I'm your president of the Storytelling Guild. First thing, I hope you enjoyed the program and our beautiful new postcards. And I want to thank one of our newest members on the board, but she has done so much for us. I want to thank Suzanne LaCour. Woo! for donating all of this for us. We so appreciate it. So support her whenever you need any marketing done. Please think of Suzanne because she is an amazing lady. Two, our next month's program is, my theme is heroes. Now, it doesn't have to be anyone special from any war or anything. It can be your parent can be your hero, maybe a sibling, maybe a dear friend that's become a hero to you. It's open to heroes. That's our theme for May. Just give you a heads up. And the last thing is in June. In February, Joyce and I did a workshop on vocal variety, how to use vocal variety to enhance your speeches. And the second thing that to me really makes a difference in your presentation, and we heard all about it, and definitely Walter showed us the best of vocal variety and how to use your voice to enhance your story. So that will be in June that Joyce and I will be presenting that second workshop. So I hope you enjoyed today's program. You want to talk about Davis? I'll just say, we are co-hosting with Ed. He's done the Davis storytelling program for years, at least as long as I know, from 2010. He has done that, so he is doing it again this year. And when is it, Ed?
It's May 18th, which is a Sunday, from 3 to 5. Keith's gonna be one of the tellers. We have a high-level storyteller that's performed all over the world. His name's Kirk Waller, and he was one of our featured tellers at our festival a year ago, our local festival. And he plays African instruments that are very unique, and he's an amazing storyteller.
Amazing.
So we're gonna have 5
amazing.
storytellers, regional tellers like our group. Again, Keith's one of them, and a couple of our members, as well as a couple people from the Davis Oddfellows Lodge, which is where this is held in Davis on May 18th. Our
May
website will have
18th.
it.
It's a Sunday, a very unusual day, and it's from 2 to 5. right?
3 to 5.
3 to
so it's a
5.
2-hour time frame.
All right, so you can mark your calendars on that. Walter, you have your hands up?
Yes, I will not be here in May, but I'm the host in June. The June program is Tall Tales. It's a prelim to our Flyers Festival for their year. So if you have a tall tale, a trickster tale, a folk tale that you want to tell, start thinking about it. It'll be this show in June. As I say, I won't be here in May, so I wanted to make a pitch for it. And I apologize for
Okay, thank you, Walter. So, yeah, in our June program, you really have a heads up is going to be Tall Tales. So I look forward to some wonderful, used to call them, I'm trying to think that they were long dog, doggy, shaggy dog stories. That's what they used to be called, shaggy dog stories. Just exaggerate the hell out of a wonderful story. So I look forward to seeing you all. Thank you again for coming. We appreciate it.
Don't forget, any notes, meetings about the Flyers is this Wednesday at the Sophia in the theater in Sacramento.
We have one to try to get to that one.
Yeah.
Marvel, you did fabulous. It's really great.